They are about to push through a treaty. Now wake up. Make sure you listen. They're about to push through a treaty that gives up U.S. sovereignty, that completely goes against the Constitution, that allows American companies to be taxed by foreign entities, that will cost Americans trillions of dollars, and that will cost American millions of jobs. And they're going to try to slide this by. And you say, well, George, I haven't heard that. Of course you haven't heard it. They're going to do it in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. They could do this as early as next week. And this is led by Senator John Kerry, our scoundrel of the week here on the George Jarkesy Show. Now, George, what are you talking about?
It's called the United Nations Law of the Sea Treaty. LOST is what they're calling it. It sounds very cute. Give it a little acronym, LOST, right? Like America's lost, except for we lead the world. On the surface, it just appears to be to resolve maritime issues between boats that accidentally wreck out at sea. But underneath what this really does, and it's being pushed hard by the Obama administration, all right, is that the United States surrenders its sovereignty to the United Nations. Under this treaty, the United Nations would have control over 71% of the Earth's surface, of the seas. This is a huge step toward global governance. Now, like I said, this could come up as early as next week at the Senate. Now, this has been going on for 30 years. They've been fighting this. And under Obama, quietly, this is going to get passed unless you do something about it. You have to tweet it. You have to email it. You got to call your senator. We have to have a voice on this. It has to not pass. The Senate can ratify this treaty, and it's done. Now, what does this treaty do, George? Well, under Ronald Reagan, he rejected it back in 1982. And he said at that time, it would grant the United Nations the power to tax U.S. companies and redistribute wealth from developed to undeveloped nations. Now, do you Americans really want the United Nations able to tax us and to distribute our wealth? Is that what our Constitution does? Is that what we were set up as a country to do? To give somebody else who's not an American the power to oversee how we're taxed, how our dollars are spent? For the first time in the history of the America, of our United States, the United Nations would have the authority to collect taxes from United States citizens under this. It doesn't sound like a little maritime law anymore, does it? This treaty, right? It's starting to sound a little deeper, isn't it? If you're scared, good. Pick up the phone. Call your senator. Call your congressman. Call your local paper. Ask them why it's not in there. Write a blog. Tweet it. You got to do something. This cannot get passed. Any form of global taxation is a direct violation of the United States Constitution. We are already overtaxed. We are super overregulated. And this does more, and by a foreign source. All right? We on the George Jarkesy Show are going to start a petition. I want our voice to be loud, and I want them to hear it in Washington, because this cannot pass. All right? This has many levels to it. All right? This would give the United Nations the power to regulate drilling in U.S. waters. Yeah, that's what I said. They would have control over our energy supply from American drillers right here in America. Not to mention the fact that this gives them a back door to the Kyoto Protocol. And under the Kyoto Protocol, we would have to comply with United Nations regulations on environment, which is going to significantly hit you in the pocketbook. You're going to have almost 100% increase in your electricity, and you're going to have a 20+% increase in your gas prices. I hope I have your attention now.